G'day, let's have a quick look at this different sets of Knipex pliers. So on the left here, we've got the Knipex Alligators, and then in the middle, we've got the Knipex Cobras, and on the right, we've got the Pliers Wrench. So start off with the two on the left. They are quite similar, so let's have a look at them together. You've got your Alligator and your Cobras. This is the same size and it's got almost the identical face, or the jaws on the top of them. The key difference between these two is this sort of actuation mechanism in the middle, so the way these lock into place. For the Alligators, you've got this 9-notch design, so you just turn this bottom handle out and then you can just move that backwards and forwards really freely and nice and easy, and actually really quick to do. So they do open up quite a lot. With the Cobras, that's slightly different. You've got this push button in the middle that you do need to push, and then choose whatever size you want, and then it will lock into place, and then that will stay that way, so that will not move on its own. So if you are working on the same size and doing the same size repetitively, then these ones here can be nice to just lock that into place and not have that move around for you. So because of that, this is slightly more complex. It does have a little spring on the back and then just that pin in the middle that you do push. And those teeth in here are a lot finer. So this has 25 different positions that you can adjust it to. So you can have a lot more precise adjustment than these Alligators on the left here. But what can happen is you can get dirt and you can get things in there and get a little bit stuck, but it's really easy to just blow out or wash out. The other thing is these jaws just don't open up as much. So for example, here you can go almost 90 degrees with these, but comparatively the Cobras just don't open up that much. So you can't get as bigger things in the middle, although actually really you can get pretty big things in there too. But you can then always just step it up to a bigger size. So that's the main difference between the Alligators and the Cobras. They are very similar. I don't really have too much of a preference on which ones to use. I've seen people have preferences of what they do use, and it's usually just whichever mechanism they prefer. And sometimes it's even whichever one they got first, that's just the ones that they use and the like. So if you do use them, let me know down below which ones you use and why, because I'd love to know if there's any other differences that I haven't noticed between these sets here. So then moving on to the Pliers Wrench, so they basically are completely different. Actually, one more quick thing about these two is you can see the finish on these is black and the finish on these is gray. So that's actually almost the same finish. It's just that different changing color. So it is an oxide finish on both. All of these tools, so actually all of these are chrome vanadium steel tools. They're all forged and then they're all oil hardened in a multi-step process just to get them obviously nice and hard. But you've got that black and the gray here, so very similar. These finishes here on the left are slightly cheaper than the chrome finish on the right, and they're just not as good as withstanding corrosion or any oxidation on the surface. But again, I haven't had an issue. I haven't used that much in wet environments, but when I've read, there's really not that many issues that people have. As long as you keep it oiled and keep it not just sitting in water all the time, you won't really have too much of an issue with these. But for example, these ones on the right here, so these do have chrome plated finish on them. So you can see the tool's a lot shinier, and obviously everything there is chrome plated. So that chrome plating just has excellent corrosion resistance. So rust won't build up on this. If you do leave these in water or work in really wet environments, that's very likely not going to be an issue. But the key difference between the Plier Wrench and these other two is the jaws. So on here, you can see that these jaws move parallel as I move that. And you can obviously adjust the position of that as well. And then they do click in place and get held in there, exactly like the Cobras there. Knipex currently doesn't make a free movable design of the Pliers Wrench, but they just it clicks into place and it's nice and easy. So I'll just compare this. Actually, obviously they're very different tool used for different needs, but I'll just show them there side by side so you can see everything in the handle is pretty similar. Even this mechanism here, it's really just the jaws that are completely different and how they work. So the Alligators and the Cobras have these teeth design in here, so you can see that the teeth there are angled facing forward. So when you grab a round object, those teeth will just dig in really, really well and hold a really solid grip. Whereas obviously these ones have a completely flat jaw. So what that is very good for is if you are working on any hex fasteners, this basically just eliminates the need for having to have a bunch of spanners. So metric, imperial, doesn't really matter the size because this is adjustable. And that's really nice and easy to actually operate and use that. You can see I can tighten it, push it all the way, and then as I pull it forward, that arms really don't move out that far. So it's really nice and easy to just hold that bottom and actuate it like this and tighten that up. Likewise with these other ones, you can do the same thing. So you open them up a little bit and you can do the same thing. You can grab them on the front face. So on the very front, and it's got that sort of smoother finish, or it still has teeth but smaller teeth. And then you've got these big teeth, these actual big teeth down the bottom here. So you can grab it on the front like that. It does slip a little bit, but then if you need a better grip, you pull it in and then it tends to grab around that hex size pretty nicely. And you can use these as well for the same sort of purpose. So I think this head design is slightly more versatile because you can use it on any round objects really, really nicely. So I don't know, let's go to this one. You can grab that, obviously adjust the size, put it around here, and grab a round tube really nice. So if I bring that up closer to the camera, you can see there those teeth, they're just digging in really well into this pipe. So then as you turn that, as you push downwards this way, those teeth will grip, and the more you push, the more those teeth will grip. So I've never had this slip, but then when you need to go the other way, you just simply push it the other way and it just instantly releases and lets go and doesn't actually grab anything. With the pliers wrench, obviously they are pretty useless against a round object, although you would be surprised at how much force that still is able to actually apply on that and hold it really, really well. But it does slip because it's got nothing to grip into. So these pliers wrench are super handy for any junctions like this or any flat surfaces. So you can put it there and grip that really nicely, hold it in place, and then use one of these two other tools to actually undo that and release that pipe from there. When it comes to any sort of plumbing fittings as well, again, these pliers wrench will just grip around that really nicely and just hold it super nicely in place. And then you can just very easily slide that forward as well as you rotate that job and tighten that up. Kind of likewise on these other ones as well. If you do have these bigger hex objects, it will grip in there quite nicely. So you can see those teeth digging in, and then it's sort of gripping it on this surface really well, and then a little bit on that one as well, and likewise down here. So you can do the same for this, but obviously those teeth there are just going to dig into the material a lot more as that flat surface there, so it will end up scratching it quite a bit. So it just depends on what you're working with. If you do need if you need the material not to be scratched, then you use that and not scratch it. The other thing you can do as well is Knipex does sell little covers for this. So all of these tools, you can get little boots that fit on top of the jaws, and they're just rubber, so they will take the force of those teeth and not actually scratch the surface. So it will just contact with a nice rubber pad. So that's definitely worth considering for that. The other really cool thing is I've got this. This is quite thin. I think this is about 5 millimeters thick. If you do use these alligators or cobras on that and push it down, it virtually will not move. It is amazing how well those teeth actually grip in place. I can push that as much as I can. This will even flex a little bit, but that just will not slip even the slightest. But then the moment I go the other way or let it go, it just releases it. So you can see there it's put a mark on it, so it just digs into that material really well. But it's really good to see that with small diameter as well, because with that smaller diameter, you're going to have a greater force on that tiny little localized area by applying that. With these bigger ones, it's got a bigger surface area that actually grips onto. One final thing with all of this is I wanted to show this. This is really cool. So this actually comes in a set of 2, and this is the extra small tools. So kind of this way, I guess. On the left here, we've got the Cobras, and then on the right here, we've got the Pliers Wrench. So for example, this is the 180 millimeter tool, and then this is the 100 millimeter tool. So it is absolutely amazing how powerful these little ones actually are. Obviously, they have very limited use. They probably make a nice EDC part, or just to have somewhere in the side on the toolbox if you do need them, but they do come in really handy. One specific use that I actually used both of these two was installing some security cameras and needed to get the SMA adapters tightened up and a few little hex bolts on the other side. So this guy came in perfectly handy because you could adjust that, get that to 4 or 5 millimeters that you needed to. And working in a tight area up near the ceiling, there really wasn't that much room to rotate, so I could just grab this and then just ever so slightly actually rotate that part. So these do come in super handy. They're really, really sturdy. You can put a lot of pressure on this and virtually no flex. And again, with these smaller things, this will just come on grip and just not flex. It is amazing what a good job Knipex has done with these teeth and the design of this. And that surface hardness there as well is about 61 on the HRC scale. So that's fairly hard for those teeth that won't wear out too soon over time. So I just wanted to point that out. Obviously this kind of sits on here and then this one goes in the middle there just for size comparison. So I'll put links to all of these below. You can buy these in sets of 3 or you can buy all these individually, and there's a whole bunch of different sizes, again, different handle finishes. So definitely have a look around for what you want. But if you're interested in any of this, I'll put links below down to all of this. So check that out. Thanks very much for watching. Hope you enjoyed it. And as always, have a great day.